Again, welcome. So glad to have you all. Let me share a couple of announcements and we'll go over here and then we'll open up our topic for the day today. All right. So, really, if you were able to join us last week, or if this is your first time, welcome. It's great to have you. And we really have three goals to these office hour sessions. One is just share some best practices. All of the wisdom and know how that we need is really within this community of Catholic Campus Ministry. So that's encouraging. Second, we do want to encourage each other. I think just seeing one another's faces builds some community. It is valuable. And then we want to promote peer-to-peer communication after the call. And so feel free to do that. One of the easiest ways to do that is through the Facebook, the private Facebook group, which I'll mention in just a second. But we also have a series of resources where you can see what some other campuses around the country are doing. Just go to ccmanetwork.org/COVID-19, and we've got links to campuses that are live streaming and doing midday prayer and using Zoom for small groups. I mean, it's really encouraging. And we have a couple of articles coming out in the next week that will nationally continue to shine a light on the work you all are doing. So after today, if you have just something that's really just knocking it out of the park, that's super successful and really creative, shoot me a text or send me an email. I would love to highlight that in some of these posts we have coming out. I'm also just kind of telling people as much as we possibly can to just ask ourselves, what does this make possible?
About what's actually causing that. I have a theory that I think is very relevant here about virtual tours.
Again, I just want to invite you to mute yourself. There we go. If you're not talking, just mute yourself. And that way, if you're multitasking, not that any of us would do that, nobody else will be able to hear that. So, all right, back to these announcements. So as I mentioned, the private Facebook group, if you're already a member, fantastic. If you've yet to join, there's the link, facebook.com/groups/CCMA today. Just a lot of good back and forth there, and I really encourage you. Next two office hours that we have, next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, how to do small groups online. I know that many of us are having success there, and yet it's not as easy as sometimes we think. Oh, sure, just use Zoom or just use FaceTime or whatever. And sometimes there are hiccups. And then on the 8th, we'll talk about 3 ways to avoid loneliness when you work from home. It's not that easy to just switch to a home working environment where you don't have students who are popping in your office and taking your candy and stuff like that. This is a whole new world that we're in. So, and just a reminder, always, please let us know what we can do to help you. Our team prays for you every Thursday, and we take that very seriously. And we just want to continue to encourage you and just to remind you that you're really on the front lines, and those lines might be virtual these days, but that is okay. So again, welcome aboard. And today our topic is that of how do we live stream Mass and moments of prayer. I want to mention in a couple of different things to feel free in the chat to be interacting with one another or to follow up or send direct messages or to the whole group. That's totally fine. But today we're talking about live streaming. And I think I want to pick on a couple of you first because some of you have been live streaming Masses and prayer and opportunities for worship for a long time. But probably it's different now. And so, maybe we could talk about first, what's the before and the after. And Abby from USC, could you just introduce yourself and give us a sense of what was live streaming like before the coronavirus and what are you guys doing now?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Abby, and I'm at USC Crusoe Catholic Center. I am the director, excuse me, I'm the director of marketing and PR. And I oversee communications and marketing strategy for our center, supporting our fundraising and development efforts, as well as our campus ministry evangelization efforts and just public relations. So I've been with USC now for about 3 years. And when I first came on board, there was already plans to install cameras inside our church to be able to stream our Masses. and so that was already in the works. But I wanted to test out like just what would happen if I just took my iPhone um, and was just able to stream from there. And so the very first live stream from our Catholic Center was a holy hour where we had sorry, music. I don't know why my voice is it's so weird. It's like something stuck in my throat. My apologies. So when I tested it for the first time, we got like really great engagement. And it's also because, you know, when you go live on your social media platforms, like like Facebook, the algorithm prioritizes live video to solicit, you know, interaction. And you know, Facebook and all these other social media platforms, especially Facebook, they're definitely in the business of, you know, gaining more viewership and gaining more followers. And so so in their algorithm they prioritize things like video, but especially live stream. And so, you know, people got notified that the Catholic Center was live streaming. And so I took my phone. I had a tripod, knowing that I was going to stream this hour. And yeah, and I went live. And then, you know, when I watched the playback, I realized that the sound wasn't so great. You know, there was music playing from a praise and worship leader who was, you know, who was to the side, but my phone was facing the altar. And so that was a big learning because, you know, there are four things that are essential, that are a foundation to live stream when you're live streaming mass, or when you're streaming any type of content. And the four things are one, a camera, some sort of recording device. So whether that be your phone or a laptop. And also just to keep in mind that your, you know, phones nowadays, like the iPhone, or if you have an Android, they have really powerful cameras, and they may be more powerful than your webcam. So, so you know, your phones are great as a recording device. The second thing is that you'll need great audio, and even if you don't have like a sound system in place or something connected to your phone that'll record sound, just be aware of where the sound is coming from, and that it needs to be directional into your recording device. So for instance, you know, I'm talking into my laptop, you know, right now, and I think you could hear me pretty clearly. It's because I'm right in front. Whereas if I were to walk over to like my kitchen and speak, you know, it's going to be echoey, it'll be distracting, and you know, it reduces the quality of your stream, yeah. And then the third thing, oh, sorry, going back to the audio, if just prioritize audio as though you would your video. They really do go hand in hand, because if people are watching and they know that they're supposed to be listening to something and they can't hear you, there's a frustration there, there's a wall, and then they'll tune out and they'll go somewhere else. So camera, audio. The third thing is your internet connection, making sure that you know, you are connected to a strong Wi-Fi, or that you're connected pretty strongly to your internet provider. And then the fourth thing is you need a platform to be able to share it with lots of people. What's called a CDN, or content delivery network. So whether that be Facebook Live or YouTube Live, Instagram Live, like what's that going to be for you? Where you know, your target demographic is that, you know, most of our college students, they're on Instagram Live, but you know, they have shared with us that for official Catholic Center content, that they will hop onto Facebook Live. So it has worked for us. But we are exploring a paid subscription through Vimeo, because they for, or they'll allow for simulcast. So if you go through Vimeo, then it could also broadcast on Facebook and YouTube all at the same time, and on your website, if you embed a code. So we're exploring that like currently. It's really new to us. Um, so after that first experience of live streaming through my phone and it being like okay quality, not the best sound. I think it was just maybe like 3 or 4 weeks later that we got our cameras installed. And our cameras in the church, we have two cameras, and they're called PTZ cameras, which is pan tilt zoom, and they are remote controlled. So there's like a switch in the back where there's like a joystick, and we're able to control, you know, like camera angles and switch between camera angles using this console in the back. It's a little bit more advanced. There's a lot more to it, and in order to get that feed, the camera feed, onto our platforms, we did need to get a separate encoder, and all of that is technical stuff. But streaming right now, and I know that there's a lot of ministries, a lot of parishes that are doing it for the very first time, and it's very doable, and you can have really great quality with no budget, just by using your phone and having access to internet, and then also a platform. So in these times, like, we're not we just got instruction from our archdiocese that churches are closed, and they encourage priests to say private mass, and with the help of maybe like one minister. So now the question is like, well, for those of us that would want to stream it, what do we do? We're still navigating around that right now. But Father Richard, our pastor, for the past couple of days, actually since Sunday, he's been live streaming his private mass from his chapel at the rectory, via Zoom. So we haven't broadcast it on any of our platforms, but at least with Zoom, he encourages participation from the viewers, and they are. The first time we did it, he asked everyone to put themselves on mute, but after testing it out, he asked everyone to go ahead and participate as much as possible audibly. And so we did unmute ourselves, and it turned out really well. And it was a very, very simple setup. He just had his laptop, just the way that we're doing it now, angled to his altar, or to the altar. So lots of things have changed in some regards. We've had to be really creative with the way in which we're streaming masses, or streaming or living any type of prayer, but at the same time, like, stripping it down and being vulnerable, and and allowing others to just see that, like, we're all still figuring it out, that it's not curated. It's not going to be, there might be distractions, but I think our community, they appreciate the effort. They at this point, they just want to be so connected. They are so yearning to be in community, and to worship, and long for the Eucharist. And so we pray together the prayer for spiritual communion every day.
Abby, thanks. That's super helpful. You can see from the chat all kinds of questions, in terms of the 1,000 participant issue with YouTube Live. Let's see, some people are really interesting. We've had Mass with Zoom, a musician and a reader, each in their own spaces, and then uploaded the video to a website. Question of, does everyone use Wi-Fi for live streaming or their own data on their phones? Jeff says, we're thinking about recording Palm Sunday and Holy Thursday Passion readings via Zoom to embed in an iMovie track of Mass, where Mass is divided into So I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. Interesting that in Zoom, if you want to go to Facebook Live, it's it's it is pretty easy to do, except that I would ask you to do a demo run, because tomorrow we're doing a three o'clock Eastern time Facebook Live with Marcel Lejeune. So you're all welcome to join. He has a new book out on evangelization, and Marcel was the director at Texas A&M for a number of years. However, streaming to private groups in Facebook is not that easy to do, and so I will figure it out by 3 o'clock tomorrow. However, my attempts so far this week have been unsuccessful. So, so make sure whatever you're doing, test it, do a demo run ahead of time, because things happen, you know. So um, I want to ask somebody who maybe doesn't have built-in cameras, somebody who's just maybe for the very first time you've had to live stream mass. If you would just take yourself off mute and share with us what's that been like, and struggles, successes, jump right in. You all have cameras in your parishes. Okay.
I don't have cameras, but I'm going to try to. I've just been celebrating, but starting tomorrow, I'm going to start doing daily mass from my house's chapel.
Okay.
We're just going to do it either via my computer or a phone, and I might have to hold the phone. But so we're going to try it for the first time because, here at Florida Tech, I'm a ministry of one. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, sure. You're not alone there. Okay, so you're just going to kind of prop it up and see how that goes.
Hey, Mike, this is Patrick from Penn and Drexel.
Sure. Hey, Patrick.
We had never done this before, and I can't tell you how easy it's actually been. We got a really good advice, I think, as the speaker before was mentioning, of investing, I think, $50 in a microphone,
Mm-hmm.
and bought a $20 tripod, and have been using several phones of the priest and the brothers that are here, and also, yeah, just using our Facebook pages to share it, basically, because we have a parish and a Newman Center, so we kind of share it through those, and then have each individual one as well host the watch party. So
Mm-hmm.
out to a large number of people, and have had really great responses of people that really appreciate just feeling connected in the midst of this.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, and I've been praying with you guys a couple different days, whether it was the rosary or mass. And, I was just thinking about this time. It's really unsettling and it's different. On the flip side, it does open all kinds of new possibilities. And yeah, I remember, Patrick, the very first week you guys at UPenn you were just trying things out, and I could see the top of your head and stuff like that. And every day it's gotten a little bit better, but it just feels very authentic, very natural, and sounds like you guys just jumped right in, and each day is getting a little bit better. Let's see. Gina says, could you please provide how we can sign up as a nonprofit to live stream on YouTube? Katie from Ramapo, I think you had something to say there. Could you jump in?
What was the question again?
How did you get that nonprofit through YouTube?
That wasn't me.
No, that wasn't you. Okay.
No, that wasn't me. I haven't done any. The only thing that I've done with YouTube is make State of the Union once a week videos for my students, and then just send them to my students. But I haven't done anything like super techy or anything like that.
Okay. Oh, you said you live stream through YouTube. There is a nonprofit discount for live streaming. You don't have it yet.
See, okay, so I sent out the link for this on Facebook. So there's about 4 Katie Kunkles in this group right now. I'm the real Katie Kunkel, but I did not send that out.
Okay. I'm utterly confused, but we'll just go with it. Okay. Great. Anybody else want to share what's been working? Maybe I could pick on Emma. Are you still on? Yeah, there's Emma. Emma down at Duke, they have a little bit of a tricky situation in that they had this like killer setup, and all of a sudden it's all changed. And so they've had to really pivot pretty quickly, right, Emma?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to report back on our next kind of group chat like this. But yeah, we had a really nice university setup, kind of like what Abby was talking about with multiple cameras that can pan and zoom and a switchboard. And we were able to have a PowerPoint also up on the screen. And for those who were asking, I think it was maybe Andrew and Jen were talking about these different things. We've been able to incorporate students by having them pre-record themselves and send us those clips. And we essentially make a PowerPoint presentation with those embedded in it. And you can toggle between the cameras and the PowerPoint presentation being presented. And so we were able to actually play, and people who are watching from the live stream, they just see it's a really slick transition, and they see these students playing the piano in their bedrooms or reading from their kitchen table. And so it's been really incredible. But yes, so now that we're in a shelter in place, that's all shut down. So we're trying to figure out a new solution, and it'll be really interesting to report back. We think, just to give a little overview, we're gonna try a multi-location Zoom call that is streamed with the priest on one camera, someone else running the PowerPoint presentation, one camera on our musician, and then one person who's there's a different function. I don't know if people are aware. You can pin videos, but that's only for your own view. But if you're the host, you can also right click and do spotlight this video, and spotlight changes it for everyone. So we're going to have one person who's essentially directing the whole thing by spotlighting who's coming up. So we're going to see how it goes. We are honestly thinking about recording on Saturday just because it's really new, and then uploading on Sunday, which is not what we would like to do because we like the engagement of comments and doing it with people on Sunday, but it's a really new setup and we're just not sure how it's going to go. So happy to report back. Yeah, but that's kind of where we are. If anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, it's talk about having to make a change. Sarah, Sarah in Archdiocese of Baltimore, you have a number of campuses that I'm sure are looking to you for counsel right now. What's working in your part of the world, and anything you want to share?
They are, and that's why I'm here, because they keep asking questions, but not really questions about balance. Our teams are doing some really great work, and a lot of the things that they had already had planned and scheduled, they moved online. So at Towson State, our team is inviting people to Bible studies, and they're increasing their number of Bible study leaders. And anybody who's involved is really participating in that, which is just really fantastic. I'm not sure if they're live streaming Mass just yet, so I'm kind of taking notes for Father Matt out there. But they're really just kind of trying to keep the community sense of things, and things that are regularly scheduled. They're trying to keep that so that the students can key in. One of the things that we are hearing now that they're all back from spring break is this kind of screen overload. But there is still a desire for them to see friendly faces and to key in with people that they have really built relationships on. So they're not live streaming masses yet. They're really doing it from the local parishes, which we have so many parishes here that are doing that. We just kind of key in all of our universities into what's already happening in that respect. So we're just trying to keep that community sense of community and community building out there. So you guys are rock stars. Keep up the great work.
They are. You got it. Hey, before we transition to live stream prayer, digital prayer, anybody else have anything you want to ask or comment on regarding Mass? You know, I'm not a liturgist, but I could see a liturgist having some interesting questions about some of these pieces of, you know, is it okay to have a person who's not in the worship space having a formal role in prayer? Again, I'm not a liturgist, but that popped in the back of my mind. Kind of interesting. Anybody want to chime in before we shift gears and talk about prayer?
Yeah, I am a liturgist, and we've done
So
a lot
teach
of
us,
talking
Sherry.
about. Yeah, sorry, it's Sherry Riley from Iowa State University. We've done a lot of talking amongst our staff about how to really choose liturgical ministers without playing favorites and things like that, because we video recorded our mass with just 4 people. But we've been doing it on Thursday to play on. We debut it on our website at 4:45 on Saturday, which is our normal mass time. So I'd be interested in hearing what other people have to say about that, because I liked what Duke did with embedding people into the recording, but other people felt like it was disjointed or forced or something. I don't know, but I could see it both ways. So yeah, it's a good question. Sorry, I don't have an answer.
Kind of interesting. I don't know how many of you have some development responsibilities, but Petrus Development has a virtual conference happening, I think 2 p.m. Eastern time every day through April 3rd. And one of the things that some folks shared was that they're using their online masses as a way to reach out to their benefactors and stakeholders, which I think is very, very clever. So whether you think your quality is good or poor or whatever, it's actually a great resource to share with your benefactors to say, we're still doing the work and we still need you, and look at what we're doing. All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jen.
We've been talking I'm at the Catholic Student Center at Washington University in St. Louis, and we've been talking a lot about what we might do to engage our community during Holy Week. You can't really do a palm procession with 4 people. And I'm just curious what people are coming up with. We're definitely considering doing the readings that have multiple readers. We'll pre-record them on Zoom and then embed them into the iMovie. But I'm just curious if people have other thoughts and ideas.
Okay, great.
This is Sherry again. Yeah, we actually we're thinking about doing sort of a neighborhood palm distribution before Palm Sunday, so that people have their palm on Palm Sunday when they're watching the video of the mass. Not sure how that's going to look yet, because there's a lot of concern about how many people touch the palm and with what. So we are, but we have, our palm delivery was not cancelable, so we already have it. So trying to figure out how to distribute that, because we don't want to waste 2,200 strips of palm. Yeah, I think we're going to try and do some sort of neighborhood distribution where we have like a neighborhood, a family in the neighborhood who has it out in their front yard or something, and people can come collect it during a certain period of time.
Interesting. I'm in Bethlehem, PA. We're in a shelter in place, so just getting out is really tricky. Yeah, just make sure those palms are 6 feet apart, Sherry. You know what I'm saying? Anybody else, have you thought about Palm Sunday yet? And then as we get closer to Holy Week, feel free to chime in.
I'll say one quick thing that I don't know if we're going to pull the trigger on it or not, but we're lucky to have the mailing addresses of most of our students. And so we've thought about cutting off like the top 6 inches of palms and putting them in. I mean, we've got so many cards and envelopes in our office, and mailing those to students. I think we just have to get our ducks in a row, but I think that's one way. If you have that kind of info from your students, it's great.
Sister Jen from Yale, we were just talking about this today and trying to figure out what to do. And we have not quite a shelter in place, but close to. So we're talking about blessing the palms during the liturgy, and the Archdiocese is still encouraging people to keep churches open. So we are going to just spread them out very far apart on tables and allowing people to come in and take a palm, but not actually announce that the church would be open until the end of the liturgy. So there wouldn't be like crowds of people waiting there, but if people are in the area, they could still stop in at some point during the day and pick up a palm.
Got it. Christina said, my palm has said palm distribution is not allowed, but we don't have any other details yet. Jen, not allowed to distribute. Amy says, we're still working on our Holy Week plans. Let's see. Carol says, we just started this today. We're live streaming Lectio Divina every day from our homes. there's a platform, lula.tv, that will stream to Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at the same time. Huh. That's really neat. Um, one thing I'd love to highlight is I haven't participated yet, but the University of Dayton, and I know a number of other campuses, they're doing a midday prayer moment via Zoom. That might be something to check out. Looks like a lot of us are using Zoom for kind of anchor moments of prayer during the day. I know Patrick at UPenn. Patrick, is it 3 o'clock that you guys do the rosary every day?
No, 5:30.
5:30. Okay, that tells you how
That's
many
actually
times I've
on
been praying with you
Facebook
guys.
Live, and then we do the small groups via Zoom and other things.
Okay.
One comment just about the liturgy. Our bishop just gave directives for Palm Sunday and Holy Week that are quite specific down to the handling of palms and everything else. So Philadelphia, I think, the civil authorities have been, not as far ahead as like New York, but they've been, further ahead than I'm sure in the Midwest and other places. So it may happen that your diocese will come out with similar directives in the near future, and it will throw all of your plans, you'll have to adjust, or just FYI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it could be too that how you capture this with video and photography for your impact report or your annual report this summer, that could be just as important. So, I mean, it reminds me of when my kids were younger and we would go to mass for, Christmas Eve or Easter. It was like the worst experience because, we would get there late and the kids were just not ready, and we'd have to sit in the narthex for the extra seating, and it was our own parish. We just felt like losers, and there was no parking and all that, and yet it was a holy experience. And I wonder if Palm Sunday, Holy Week, Triduum might be a little bit similar for some of us, and yet we'll do the best we can and capture it, and hopefully a few months down the road we'll be able to smile. Anybody else for Palm Sunday or for Holy Week? Have you started planning that out, started talking about some of those details? Okay. Hey, Lynn, I want to pick on you for a sec. Lynn Ray, you have just a couple of campuses that you're responsible for. So in all that free time you have, tell us about what are things like in Louisiana, and what are some of the things that you're doing in terms of online prayer, and even as we get closer to Palm Sunday.
Well, over here, we're like the fourth state that's where, that's having a lot of issues with our numbers. And so our governor has put us all in like self-quarantine. So we can't leave unless it's totally essential to go anywhere. So what I've been doing with my students is I've really been using Zoom. And so they really love using Zoom because we can all see each other, and we can all talk with each other, and we can all pray. And it's a way for us to check on each other. And before we end, every time we talk about what we're thankful for, to try to alleviate the fears of everything. But also posting, because we are not connected to a church parish, also posting live streams from churches, worship hours, just anything that we can post using our group me's are really good too, because that's our active students. And so that's kind of what we're doing here, and I'm doing it at both universities.
Okay. So GroupMe has worked pretty well for you guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask this question to everybody. How are you just basically pushing reminders out to folks? Is it just mass text messaging, or how do you do that?
So hi.
Mass emails. Hey, sure. Go ahead.
My name's Ann Schwartz. I'm in Missouri. So we are using GroupMe mainly, but we're also having the trouble that a lot of our students gave up social media for Lent, and they're sticking with that even though this is all going on. So we're trying to find out different ways to reach them. So we've been trying to put a little bit more on the websites and different things like that, so that hopefully they're looking and searching. But a lot of them still are sticking with that, which I appreciate that they're sticking with their Lenten but it's harder to figure out ways
Mhm.
to connect with them right now.
Got it. You have some devout students. Thanks, Ann. A lot of people say Instagram stories, emails, newsletters, group me, email, Instagram, Facebook too. Let's see. Campaign Monitor has reasonable rates, Dan says. Dan, do you want to comment on that? The young adults that you're working with?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm in Diocese of Wilmington, Delaware, and covering the Eastern Shore of Maryland. A lot of our young adult groups are using Facebook as the main um, means of communication. I think that might not be as applicable, like someone just said about social media fasting for Lent, but also the newer generation of college students aren't as much on Facebook. I've seen Instagram being used pretty effectively. The campaign monitor is just a really kind of compact way to send out a mass email in a pretty clear format. And, you know, we use it for our regular communications, and now it's kind of been flipped over to, you know, just mass communications where we've had subscribers for weekly updates, monthly updates, young adult, sports. I'm in the youth ministry office. So they're all separate lists, but then you can just click all of them and they'll all get the updates. So just throwing that out there.
Nice. It's a little bit of guerrilla warfare, you know. I mean, just trying to cover this moving target. Good. I love this conversation, and it seems like there's just so many different things that are working in so many different places. I just want to thank Stan for putting that in the chat here. A couple things here. Katie says, for a smaller ministry like mine, it's been helpful to follow and share things from other ministry Instagram accounts, whether that's live streams, literally anything has been great to share. And you can give Katie a follow at Ramapo_Newman. Yeah, Montclair State University here or in New Jersey, they're doing something called Quarantine Catholics. I think it's once a week, and I shared that last night on the Facebook page. It was really good, you know, and we don't have to create everything. Claire uses Emma email marketing and the Cork app. She's at the College of St. Elizabeth. Let's see. Amy says, we're thinking of doing foot washing at home, Holy Thursday, sending us photos, asking them to venerate the cross at home. I'm kind of a germaphobe, so I've always been nervous about the veneration of cross, but that's just me. So I'm okay venerating the cross at home. Great. Anybody, before we sign off today, we have just about 2 minutes left. Anybody have a last question or comment that you'd like to make? Don't be bashful.
I just want to say that I have a great interest in learning about whatever events everybody offers on campus online, because to me it's a beautiful opportunity to hopefully plug in, even if it's a couple of our students, with the greater church and connect with new friends, get to know a different campus ministry. That could be really empowering and hope giving to them at this time. So I'm very, very interested. Our campus is very small. I mean, our campus group is very small, like 16, and they were between spring break and the fact that they found 6 COVID cases on campus before they sent everybody home. It's just been very quiet. Plus, we're in the middle of a big transition because we're losing our 2 top leaders. But I do have a couple of students that are still engaged, that still communicate, and some of them through the young adult group, that I would love to plug into whatever it is that you do, so that they have an opportunity to meet other students in other campuses. Could be a really great opportunity for us to, I don't know, get our groups together, when otherwise we wouldn't have been able to. So we might as well embrace the opportunity now that we're all online.
Yeah, thanks, Marta. That's a great idea. And if you have anything that you'd like to pass along to us at CCMA, we're happy to share stuff as wide as we can, and because we can learn from one another. Nicole says, our students are really discouraged with not being able to go to Mass. They're sleeping for a lot of the day and are solely on technology and finding it super challenging to pray. We're encouraging them to make a schedule and pray. Any tips? Gosh, that is really great. Nicole, could you just say a little bit more about that? Nicole, are you still there? Okay.
Try this. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Yeah, so we've reached out on a lot of digital platforms. Like we're leading prayer through Instagram Live every day, and then through Zoom, we're like continuing the small groups that we had been to try and create that sense of normalcy for students. But we've been checking in with our student leaders first before we check in with like students in general, and they're just feeling really discouraged. And so for like us as a staff, we're like, okay, like this can be a super fruitful time. Like we've created schedules. We're sort of seeing this as like almost like a monastic experience of doing the things throughout the course of the day that like you wouldn't normally have time to do. But the students are just not there yet. The ones that we've talked to, like they're sleeping until 1 p.m. They're like, I'm just so bored, like, but they're so afraid of that stillness and that silence. And in particular, for a lot of our students that have really strong devotion to the Eucharist, like the fact that they can't receive it now, like they don't know how to experience God apart from that. So we're doing like all we can to provide resources and provide words of encouragement. But I think what I'm finding tough and what our staff is finding tough is like that they're still not doing the things that can be fruitful during this time.
I love that. Thanks, Nicole. Isn't it interesting? I mean, many of our students had no idea what the idea of a spiritual communion was, up until the coronavirus, maybe even some of us. And I think sometimes some of the messaging can be just sort of, you can still receive communion, make a spiritual communion. And yet having done it now for the first time, day after day for a few weeks, it's a different experience, and it doesn't feel as satisfying on some levels. And so that our students experience that too, that's really interesting. And don't forget, all their classes are now online, so they're waking up with their phone in bed, they're going to bed with their phone in bed, and all day long they're either on their phone or whatever. And now we're telling them, oh, and we want you to add all your prayer online too. That's fantastic. I see a couple of people have shared some things, some wonderful articles. Yeah, there's Grotto. I posted an article about some of the cloistered.
Yeah, I love that one. The 29, the sister. Who talks about her. Yeah, 29 years of
social. That's real social isolation behind a grill. But that's very real. The anxiety and the mental health issues were very prominent when students did go to classes in person, when they did walk around on campus and get more exercise and things like that. So, we're starting to talk behind the scenes at CCMA about this is a major issue, was a big issue, but this is going to shape students' experiences moving forward, even for the fall semester. Gosh, this is great. Yeah, there's so many good ideas being in the chat. I don't have any great answers for you, Nicole, but I see some people have said just encouraging simple anchor points in the day, I think, is very meaningful. And not to keep picking on UPenn, but they've just built, these are the things we do every day, and we invite you to join us. And that seems to be pretty meaningful for a lot of people. Good. Well,
oops, sorry.
Go ahead, Martha. I'll give you the last word.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to share something that helped me put things in perspective. And when I shared it with my students and young adults that I've been in conversations with that were freaking out about missing Mass and communion, it really was helpful to them. And that's where I stood reminded of St. Clare of Assisi when she couldn't go to Christmas Mass. The Lord actually projected Mass in her wall. That, literally the first TV Mass was created by God. And what God creates is good. And that should be like a pretty strong statement that ultimately it's about how we participate in Mass, whether we are in front of a television or whether we are in person. And God will dispense those graces for every time we participate faithfully, and perhaps even more graces now, because number one, God is close to the afflicted. He knows our hearts are afflicted. He knows we miss the Eucharist. and he knows that it's out of our control. And secondly, because of this happening, we are growing to appreciate the Mass and the Eucharist so much more that perhaps we're going to be participating in TV Mass more devoutly than those masses we went to in person that we slept through. And there's a really beautiful opportunity to rediscover this great gift God gave us and actually be more blessed for it. And that helped me, but it seemed to help them a lot. And also there's an article about saints that had to live without the Eucharist, and it may or may not be in the stream. I had to switch to my phone because I had technical issues. So I've been trying to keep up with the message thread, but there was an article, and I forgot it was National Catholic Register or Church Pop, about saints that had to live without the Eucharist. And the takeaway there is, hey, they still became saints, even though they lived without the Eucharist for a while. It's all in how we receive them in our hearts. So those are my 2 points that help me and help me to help them.
Thanks, Marta. That's great. Yeah. Hey, we're going to get through this. The church has been through these kinds of things many times. And,
Amen.
It's
an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. What does it make possible? That's what I keep asking. Everybody, just want to say thank you. Thank you for your wisdom, your insights, just your practical tips and tricks. Thank you for the work that you're doing. It's super inspiring, and I know that sounds cliche, but it's not. It's not. Invite you to join us next Wednesday, where we're going to be talking specifically about small groups. So if you thought Mass online was complicated, small groups might be just as complicated. So we'll be talking about that next week. Feel free to participate at whatever level you like on the CCMA private Facebook group. Fantastic. Also, if you're a diocesan director, we're probably going to be doing a call sometime in the next 10 days or so just for you. Because as Sarah mentioned earlier, she has, I don't know how many campuses, Sarah, you have how many do you have? 8 campuses that they're all looking to you for answers. And usually we have more questions than we have answers. So we're going to be giving some resources for you as well. Last thing I want to say is I know a lot of people have been asking, Mike, are we still going to have the convention? What is going on? And I can't say anything except that hopefully in the next week, a final decision will be made and we'll be letting everybody know. So that may be a little bit of a disappointing that I can't tell you everything today, but that's where we are today. And we're working super hard behind the scenes just to cross every T and dot every I and put it in God's hands. So why don't we close with the Glory Be, and then I know we all have busy things to get back to. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Mary, Mother of the Church, pray for us. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. All right. God bless you guys. Have a good day. Hang in there.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, Mike.